I never thought I would come back to this house again. Not like this. Not after all these years. But here I was, stepping out of the car with Chike and Emeka, staring at the big white walls of our father's house like it was some stranger's palace. It felt colder than I remembered. Maybe it was because he was gone, or maybe it was because I knew deep down that nothing would ever be the same again. When I pushed the big wooden gate open, the sound of it creaking made my stomach twist. The compound smelled different, old, dusty, and yet like my childhood. Memories hit me like flashes of lightning. I remembered running here barefoot, chasing Chike around the garden while Emeka cried over some toy he lost. But now, all of that joy seemed swallowed by this emptiness. We didn't even get to talk before we saw her. Ifeoma. She was standing in the living room doorway, arms folded, calm as if she owned the place already. And maybe she did. She had been our father's caretaker for years, true. But seeing her like this, all composed and smiling politely, made my heart beat faster, not with respect, but with suspicion. She had no right to look this comfortable in our father's house. Then came the lawyer, a serious-looking man with glasses that slid down his nose. He called us into the office and read the will. I waited, hoping, praying that the house would still be ours. Maybe even just a small share. But my heart stopped when he said it. The house, the compound, and all property therein are hereby left to Ifeoma, the caretaker of Chief Nwosu. I felt like the floor had disappeared. I stumbled back a step, clutching at the edge of the desk. Chike's face went dark like someone had poured hot water over him. Emeka's lips trembled, but he didn't say a word. What? I managed to choke out. This can't be real. The lawyer looked at me, patient but firm. I'm afraid it is, Miss Ada. This is the last will and testament of your late father. I turned to Ifeoma, who just smiled. That smile, calm, knowing, untouchable. And suddenly I felt something boil inside me. Anger, confusion, disbelief. How could she? How could she take what was ours by blood, by birthright? There had to be something behind this. Charms, maybe. Witchcraft. Nothing else made sense. Chike didn't wait. He leaned forward, his voice low and sharp. This is not over. We will find a way to get what's ours. I wanted to scream, to yell, to slap her in that calm face, but all I could do was stand there, shaking, trying to understand. Our father was gone. The house was gone. And Ifeoma, she was smiling. I felt a cold weight in my chest, like a warning. Something was coming, and I had a feeling it was not going to be easy to survive. After the reading of the will, the house felt different, heavy, like every wall was watching me, judging me, reminding me that I had lost. I couldn't sleep that night, not because of grief. No, I was used to grief, but because of her. Ifeoma. That calm, smiling face haunted me. How could she sit in our father's house, in our father's chair, like she had earned it by blood? I was ready to believe anything. Witchcraft, charms, juju. It had to be something. Chike was worse. He didn't even pretend to be polite. He prowled around the house, poking through drawers, checking cupboards, muttering under his breath. She's hiding something, he said. She can't just waltz in and take everything. Our father wouldn't do this on his own. Emeka tried to calm us both, but even he looked shaken. Maybe father just trusted her more, he said softly. I wanted to slap him. Trusted her more? After everything? I felt my anger flare, sharp and hot. The next morning, we gathered in the living room, the same room where our father had passed. I tried to speak, but my voice shook. I want to know what she did, I said. I want to know how she... I stopped myself. I want to know why she got the house. We need answers. Chike's eyes narrowed. I told you, Ada. Something is not right. We'll check her things, her past, everything. I swear we will find something that proves she used charms or juju or whatever. She will not get away with this. I nodded, but a small, uneasy voice inside me whispered that this wasn't going to be easy. Ifeoma didn't make mistakes. She didn't panic. She didn't leave traces. And every time we tried to corner her, she would just smile, polite and patient, like she was teaching us a lesson we didn't want to learn. One afternoon, I decided to confront her, to look her in the eyes and demand answers. I found her in the kitchen, quietly washing dishes. Ifeoma, I said, my voice firmer than I felt. How could father leave this house to you? Was it charms? Did you... She didn't flinch. She didn't even pause. She looked at me with those calm eyes, and I swear she knew every thought I had. Ada, she said softly, your father made his choice. You may think it is unfair, but it is not yours to question. He loved you. He loved all of you, but he trusted me." Her words should have made me angry, and they did. But a tiny part of me, annoying, frustrating, couldn't help but feel confused. Maybe this wasn't about charms. Maybe we didn't know him as well as we thought. That night, I lay awake again, staring at the ceiling, listening to the quiet of the house. Chike was still pacing. Emeka was still whispering prayers. And Ifeoma, she was calm, sleeping somewhere in the house that had once been ours. And I realized, with a cold punch to my chest, that the fight had only begun. By the third day, I was done pretending that this was just about a house, pretending that Ifeoma had earned it in some simple way. No, something was wrong. The house was ours. It always would have been ours. And yet, she sat there like a queen, calm, untouchable, smiling at our confusion. Chike, of course, was already planning. He whispered to me and Emeka late at night, plotting how to find proof that Ifeoma had used some kind of charm. I felt my stomach twist every time he spoke. Part of me wanted to believe him, wanted to uncover some dark secret and take back what was ours. But another part of me, the part I hated, kept wondering if maybe, just maybe, Chike was only feeding his own anger. I decided to look myself, alone. While Ifeoma was outside tending to the small garden she claimed as her own, I went into my father's study. The smell of old books and leather hit me, heavy with memory. This room always made me feel both safe and afraid, like it held every secret my father ever had. I pulled open drawers, rifled through papers, even checked the locked cabinet. But nothing. Nothing that could give me proof of juju or charms or tricks. And every time I thought I had a clue, a letter, or a document, it turned out to be ordinary papers. Bills, receipts, letters we had never seen, harmless notes from my father to business partners. Then I found a small envelope hidden behind a stack of old account books. It was addressed to me and Emeka and Chike. My hands shook as I tore it open. Inside, a letter in our father's handwriting stared back at me. I felt my heart stop. The letter was calm, patient, but it cut deeper than anything else. He explained everything. How he had watched us, seen our fights, our selfishness, our small jealousies, how he had wanted the house to go to someone who had given him real care without expecting anything in return. He wrote that the house wasn't just about bricks and walls, it was about loyalty, kindness, and integrity. And he believed Ifeoma embodied that in a way we hadn't. Tears stung my eyes. I had been so angry, so certain, so ready to blame her for everything. And yet, maybe he was right. Maybe our father had seen us clearly, even when we couldn't see ourselves. I left the study quietly, clutching the letter like a lifeline. Chike and Emeka were arguing outside. I didn't know how to tell them. How could they understand without hating me, or worse, hating her? And yet, a small seed of understanding had been planted. But just as I thought the storm might pass, Ifeoma appeared at the top of the stairs, calm as ever, smiling like she knew everything I was thinking. And I realized the real challenge was just beginning. By the fourth day, the house felt alive with tension. Every step I took, every corner I passed, seemed charged with silent judgment. Chike hadn't slept properly since the will reading. He prowled like a caged lion, muttering about how Ifeoma had stolen what was ours. Emeka tried his usual peacekeeping, but even he was restless, nervous, as if the walls themselves were listening. I couldn't ignore it anymore. The letter from Father burned in my pocket, heavy with truth, but also heavy with shame. I knew we had been blind, selfish, and proud. And yet, I wanted to scream at Ifeoma, to demand why she had accepted something that wasn't ours. It was mid-afternoon when the confrontation came. We were all in the living room, Chike pacing, Emeka sitting stiffly on the couch, and I standing by the window, staring at the garden where Ifeoma quietly swept the fallen leaves. My hands were trembling, but I forced myself to speak. "Ifeoma," I said, my voice louder than I intended. "We found Father's letter. We know why you got the house, but why accept it? Why let us, your family, suffer like this?" She looked at me calmly, unshaken, her eyes steady. "Ada," she said softly, "I never wanted to hurt anyone. Your father made his choice. He trusted me to care for the house and to care for the values he left behind. That is all I did." Chike laughed bitterly, sharp and harsh. "All you did? You took what was ours. What gives you the right to sit in our father's chair and act like nothing is wrong?" I didn't take anything, she replied evenly. Your father gave it to me, not because I deserved it more than you, but because I loved him when he needed love, and I did not expect anything in return. Can you say the same? Her words hit harder than any insult. I felt my chest tighten. It was true. We had fought, argued, and plotted, each thinking the other was more deserving. And yet here was someone calm, gentle, and honest, showing us what loyalty and care really meant. Emeka finally spoke, his voice trembling. Maybe we didn't understand him. Maybe we were too proud to see what he wanted to teach us. Chike didn't answer. He just stared at Ifeoma, anger and confusion battling in his eyes. For the first time, I saw doubt flicker in his posture. I swallowed hard, realizing that this was the turning point. The house wasn't just a building. It was a lesson, a mirror showing us what we had become and what we could still choose to be. And as Ifeoma turned and went back to the kitchen, calm as ever, I understood something that frightened and humbled me. The battle wasn't about her. The battle was with ourselves. The morning after our confrontation felt different. The house was quieter, though not empty of tension. I could see it in Chike's stiff shoulders and Emeka's restless hands. Something had shifted, but neither of them wanted to admit it. I held the letter from Father close to my chest, as if it were the only thing keeping me from falling into the anger I had carried for days. I decided I had to talk to Ifeoma alone. I found her in the garden again, humming softly as she watered the plants. She looked up at me and smiled, that same calm smile that had haunted my thoughts since the will reading. Ifeoma, I said, my voice low, almost trembling. I want to say, I'm sorry. I was angry. I thought you had tricked Father, that you... I paused, unable to find the words. She had shown me patience I didn't deserve. You have nothing to apologize for, she said gently. Your father loved you. He also wanted you to learn something from this house. Not about bricks or money, but about life, loyalty, and respect. That is why he chose me. It was never about taking from you. It was about showing you what matters. Her words made my chest ache. I realized then how blind I had been, how quick I was to judge, to assume, to fight for what I thought was right, without ever seeing the truth. When I returned inside, Chike was sitting at the edge of the couch, staring at the floor. Emeka looked when I walked past, eyes filled with cautious hope. I handed them Father's letter. Read it, I said simply. It's what he wanted us to understand. Chike read it slowly, muttering, So, he saw everything? All our fights, our pride, and he still loved us? His voice cracked slightly, the first real sign of vulnerability I had seen in him for years. Yes, I whispered, and he wanted us to learn from it. Hours later, we stood together in the living room, the three of us finally silent, facing the house that had caused so much pain and confusion. Ifeoma passed by, carrying a tray of tea, and without a word, left it on the table. It was a simple gesture, but in it was forgiveness, patience, and quiet strength. For the first time in days, I felt the weight lift from my chest. The house was hers, yes, but it had given us something more valuable than walls or money. It had given us understanding, humility, and the chance to see our father's wisdom clearly. As I looked around the living room, I realized something that made my eyes sting. Life isn't about owning things. It's about seeing people, respecting them, and understanding them. Our father had left us a legacy far greater than property, and for the first time, I felt like we were finally ready to accept it.